Ever wonder which soft drinks you should avoid at all costs? And which three are actually worth it? Picture grabbing a cold can, that first fizzy sip hitting your tongue, only to realize it's a sugar trap. What if the soda you trust most isn't the one you should be drinking? Let's kick things off with the neon green sugar rush that is more punishment than pleasure. Mountain Dew. Picture cracking open that tall, cold can on a hot day. The fizz hisses, the citrusy blast hits your nose, and for a second you think, yes, this is going to be refreshing. But then comes the sip. Sweet, syrupy, and so heavy that halfway through it feels less like a drink and more like a dare. Mountain Dew was designed as a jolt, a high-octane beverage loaded with sugar and caffeine, and for years it was marketed as the fuel for gamers, extreme sports fans, and anyone who wanted to feel like they were living on the edge. The truth, though, this drink is basically liquid candy with a caffeine kicker. One standard bottle of Mountain Dew contains more sugar than most candy bars, and that is not even touching the artificial flavors and color that give it its radioactive glow. The combination spikes your blood sugar, then sends you crashing down harder than you started. And the caffeine content is no small joke either. It is enough to leave younger drinkers jittery, restless, or wide awake at 3 in the morning. What feels like fun in the moment is really your body running on borrowed energy. Now, let's talk value. Sure, Mountain Dew is cheap, but the cost shows up in other ways. The sugar overload takes a toll on your teeth and your waistline, and the crash afterward leaves you feeling worse than before. The companies selling it frame it as a lifestyle choice, but in reality, it is one of the fastest tickets to fatigue, weight gain, and a trip to the dentist. Can you make it less terrible? Some fans swear by mixing it with ice-cold water to dilute the syrupy sweetness, or using it as a base for cocktails that balance out the sugar. But if you need to rescue a soda from itself, maybe it does not deserve the rescue. Mountain Dew has its fans, no doubt, but if you are looking for refreshment, this is one drink better left on the shelf. Your turn. Do you remember the first time you tried Mountain Dew and did it feel like a drink or a dare? Coming in next is the so-called zero-calorie cola that leaves your body more confused than refreshed. Pepsi Max. At first glance, it feels like the holy grail. All the fizz, all the taste, and none of the guilt. That sleek black can almost promises sophistication, like you are drinking the smarter, cooler cousin of regular Pepsi. But when you take a sip, the experience is less about refreshment and more about your taste buds wrestling with a cocktail of artificial sweeteners. It is sweet, yes, but not in a natural way. There is a sharpness, a chemical edge that lingers long after the bubbles fade. The problem is that while Pepsi Max is marketed as a healthier alternative, research shows artificial sweeteners can actually mess with your body. They trick your brain into expecting sugar, but deliver something else entirely. That mismatch may lead to more cravings, more snacking, and ironically, weight gain over time. Add to that the fact that some people report headaches, stomach issues, or just an uneasy feeling after drinking it, and suddenly 0 calorie does not feel like zero consequence. And then there is the flavor battle. Diet drink lovers defend it with passion, while others swear it tastes like medicine with bubbles. Unlike regular soda, which is indulgent but straightforward, Pepsi Max feels like it is trying too hard to be everything at once. You get the sweetness, but you also get the metallic aftertaste, and neither really satisfies. From a price perspective, a Pepsi Max sits right alongside its sugary siblings, so the cost is not the issue. The real price is in the confusion it leaves you with. Are you actually making a healthier choice or just swapping one set of problems for another? The answer depends on who you ask, but if your body could talk, it might have a different opinion. Could you make it better? Maybe. Some people blend it half and half with sparkling water to tone down the artificial intensity. Others use it as a mixer where the alcohol distracts from the flavor quirks. But as a daily drink, it is more of a gamble than a guarantee. What about you? Do you think diet sodas like Pepsi Max are clever hacks or just another trick in a shiny can? Sliding into the spotlight is the childhood favorite that is really just a syrupy orange illusion. Fanta Orange. The can alone is enough to trigger nostalgia. Bright orange, playful font, the promise of citrus fun. You crack it open, the bubbles fizz, and the smell reminds you of childhood birthday parties and hot summer days at the park. But take a sip today and the illusion shatters fast. The sweetness hits like a freight train, and the orange flavor? More like orange-flavored candy than anything grown on a tree. The truth is, Fanta Orange has almost no real juice in it at all. What you are really drinking is carbonated sugar water, dyed bright orange, designed to look fun and harmless. For kids, it is easy to see the appeal. For adults, the sugar rush is overwhelming, and the aftertaste leaves you more parched than refreshed. One can pack nearly your entire recommended daily sugar intake, and that is before you even consider the rest of your day's food and drink. This is a drink that thrives on nostalgia. People remember it fondly because it was part of carefree days, not because of its actual flavor. The brand leans into that too, marketing it with fun, playful ads that keep the focus on the good times rather than what is in the can. And while there is nothing wrong with enjoying it once in a while, making it a regular part of your routine is like signing up for a lifetime sugar subscription. Price-wise, it is accessible, but again, cheap does not always mean good value. You pay later in energy crashes, in dentist bills, and in realizing that your body feels drained rather than fueled. In the long run, that bargain can cost more than you think. Could it be better? Sure, if it actually had more real juice, less sugar and flavor that resembled the fruit it pretends to represent. Until then, it remains a guilty pleasure at best, and an avoid-at-all-costs option at worst. Here's a fun one. When was the last time you had a Fanta Orange, and did it taste like oranges or like your childhood memories? Up next is the jittery imposter that tries to play energy drink, but crashes harder than your laptop. Energy sodas like Full Throttle. On the surface, these drinks look bold and exciting. The cans are oversized, the fonts scream intensity, and the promise is simple. Drink this and you will feel unstoppable. But here is the reality. These are not your standard colas. They are Frankenstein sodas loaded with not just sugar but also caffeine and other stimulants, making them feel like a hybrid of soda and energy drink. Take a sip and at first you might think, wow, this is sweet and tangy. 10 minutes later, you're tapping your foot, bouncing in your chair, or maybe even feeling your heart race a little. An hour later, the crash hits, leaving you sluggish, irritable, and reaching for another can to chase the buzz. It is a cycle, and it is one these brands count on. The problem with energy sodas is not just the sugar or the caffeine alone, but the combination. It is a 1-2 punch that takes your system for a ride, and not a pleasant one. For younger drinkers, the effects can be even worse, leading to sleepless nights, jittery mornings, and that hollowed-out feeling that comes when the crash is stronger than the climb. Health experts have warned about these drinks for years, and for good reason. Consuming them regularly has been linked to higher risks of heart issues, anxiety, and long-term metabolic problems. And unlike regular soda, which is at least predictable in its effects, these drinks can feel like rolling the dice with your body. Price-wise, they are more expensive than regular sodas, often matching or even surpassing energy drinks. So not only are you paying more upfront, but you are also paying later with how drained you feel after the high wears off. Could they ever be worth it? Maybe in a pinch, a long drive, an all-night study session, or a desperate need to stay awake. But even then, there are safer options, like coffee or plain sparkling water, that give you energy without the hard crash. Question for you. Have you ever downed an energy soda and instantly regretted it? Or are you one of the few who can handle the ride? Taking center stage is the creamy-sounding cola that sneaks in more sugar than your daily allowance in a single can, Coca-Cola Vanilla. At first glance, it feels like an indulgence worth trying. A cola that promises the familiar caramel fizz of Coca-Cola, but with a smooth vanilla twist. It sounds like dessert in a can, like something comforting, cozy, and maybe even classy. But once you crack it open and take that first sip, the reality sets in. Instead of balance, what you get is a sugar tsunami dressed up with a faint vanilla aftertaste. The vanilla does not really round out the flavor, it masks it. For a while in the early 2000s, Coca-Cola Vanilla was everywhere, promoted as the grown-up cousin to regular cola. It was supposed to be a new classic, a soda for people who wanted just a touch more. But the problem is that more turned into too much. Each can carries enough sugar to make dentists cringe, and the vanilla, instead of tasting natural, often comes across like a melted candle mixed into your soda. Nostalgia keeps it alive for some, but if you are drinking it regularly, your body will not thank you. Think about the experience. That syrupy weight that coats your tongue, the artificial vanilla that lingers a little too long, and the rush of sweetness that is gone almost as soon as it hits. It is not refreshment, it is more like dessert you regret halfway through. And the kicker? By the time you finish a can, you feel thirstier than when you started, because all that sugar just leaves your mouth dry and craving water. Price-wise, it sits right with the rest of the Coca-Cola family, so you are not paying more up front. But the value question comes later. Are you getting enjoyment or just another hit of sugar that burns fast and leaves nothing behind? For most people, it is the latter. Coca-Cola Vanilla is a reminder that not every experiment deserves to stay on the shelves. Could it work in small doses? Maybe. Some people swear it makes a great float when poured over ice cream, or that it pairs nicely with whiskey as a mixer. But if you need to add ice cream or liquor just to make a soda enjoyable, that says a lot about the soda itself. Question for you: do you think Coca-Cola Vanilla is an underrated gem? Or is it proof that not every classic needs a twist? Now, bubbling onto the list is the flashy fruit remix that turns out to be just another sugar trap. Sprite Remix. Back in the early 2000s, Sprite Remix was marketed as the bold new twist on a classic favorite. It had colorful ads, cool packaging, and flavors like tropical and berry that promised to reinvent the lemon-lime soda you already knew. For teenagers and young adults, it was hard not to grab one just to see what all the buzz was about. But here is the thing. Behind the flashy branding, it was just Sprite, with even more sugar and a dash of artificial fruit flavor that did not feel fresh, only forced. Take a sip and the sweetness hits right away, heavy and syrupy, masking whatever subtle citrus flavor Sprite normally has. The tropical notes often felt more like candy than fruit, like gummy bears melted down into a carbonated drink. Sure, the first sip could feel exciting, new, different, maybe even fun. But try finishing the whole bottle and it becomes a chore. The sugar weighs down your palate, and instead of feeling refreshed, you are left feeling like you just ate a bag of candy. Health-wise, it was no improvement either. A standard bottle contained nearly your entire daily sugar limit in one go, with no juice, no nutrients, and nothing that made it a better choice than regular Sprite. If anything, it was worse because the remix distracted from the fact that it was just another soda overload in disguise. From a value standpoint, it was the same price as Sprite, but for what? You were paying the same amount for something that claimed to be an upgrade but left you wishing you had stuck with the original. That is part of the reason it never stuck around. The hype fizzled out quickly, and nostalgia is the only thing that keeps people talking about it now. Could Sprite Remix work if it came back today? Maybe if they cut the sugar and used real fruit flavors instead of chemical approximations. But until then, it remains a relic of the era of extreme sodas. Bold packaging, bright colors, and not much else. Here is one for you. If Sprite Remix suddenly came back to shelves, would you buy it out of curiosity, or do you think it should stay in the past? Making its way in is the light lemon-lime option that secretly doubles down on empty calories, 7-Up Cherry. The concept sounds harmless, a twist on a classic soda, swapping plain lemon-lime for a cherry kick. You picture something crisp, refreshing, with just a hint of fruit sweetness. But in reality, 7-Up Cherry often feels like a knockoff of Cherry Sprite or Cherry Pepsi, only flatter, less bold, and weighed down by sugar. It does not taste like real cherries. It tastes like cough syrup and soda had a clumsy collision. The problem with 7-Up Cherry is that it tries to market itself as a lighter alternative to colas. It is clear, it is fizzy, it has fruit notes. It feels like it should be better for you. But nutritionally, it is almost identical to drinking a can of Coke or Pepsi, only with less flavor payoff. So you are not really making a healthier choice. You are just trading one sugar hit for another. Think about the experience. The first sip feels mild, maybe even refreshing if it is ice cold. But as you drink more, that artificial cherry note becomes overwhelming, leaving you with an aftertaste that lingers long after you are done. Add in the fact that the carbonation feels weaker compared to other sodas, and the whole thing falls flat, both literally and figuratively. In terms of cost, 7-Up Cherry is priced alongside its competitors, but it rarely feels worth it. If you want a cherry soda, there are stronger options with more personality. If you want a lemon lime soda, the original 7-Up or Sprite will do the job better. So why waste time with something that sits awkwardly in the middle? Could it be redeemed? Possibly if they used natural fruit extracts or cut down the sugar so it felt lighter and more refreshing. But until that happens, it is a drink that promises freshness but delivers fatigue. Be honest. When was the last time you chose 7-Up Cherry over any other soda, and did it actually leave you satisfied? Let's call out the 10-calorie wonder that is really a chemical cocktail in disguise. Dr. Pepper 10. When it launched, the idea was almost genius. Regular Dr. Pepper has a loyal following. Diet Dr. Pepper has its fans. So why not split the difference with a 10-calorie version? It sounded like the perfect middle ground. Full flavor, fewer calories, the best of both worlds. The ads even bragged, "It is not for women," leaning into a strange marketing gimmick that made the soda feel edgy and bold. But when people actually tried it, the result was more confusion than satisfaction. The taste of Dr. Pepper 10 is strange. It has the sweetness of regular Dr. Pepper at first, but it is quickly followed by the sharp tang of artificial sweeteners. That clash makes every sip feel like two sodas fighting for control. And while you may not notice it in the first sip, by the time you are halfway through the can, the flavor feels unbalanced and a little exhausting. It does not quench thirst, it raises questions. From a health perspective, it is also misleading. 10 calories may sound like a win, but what you are really consuming is a mix of sugar and artificial sweeteners. Instead of solving the problems of regular soda, it just adds new ones. Your body gets confused signals. Sugar that spikes your blood sugar plus sweeteners that trick your brain without delivering real energy. The result? More cravings, more confusion, and more reason to grab another can. And then there is the value. Dr. Pepper 10 costs the same as its full sugar or diet counterparts, but gave you a worse experience than either. Regular Dr. Pepper is indulgent but clear in its identity and diet. Dr. Pepper is straightforward about being sugar-free. Dr. Pepper 10 is stuck in no man's land, never quite satisfying either side. Could it be redeemed? Probably not. It was discontinued for a reason, and most people who tried it were not sad to see it go. Sometimes trying to please everyone just ends up pleasing no one. So tell me, do you think sodas like Dr. Pepper 10 are clever compromises or doomed experiments that should stay off the shelves? And dragging near the bottom is the purple fizz that is more food dye than fruit. Grape soda from generic brands. You know the can. Bright purple, maybe even metallic, practically glowing under the store lights. You crack it open, and the smell is less vineyard grapes and more grape-flavored lollipop melted in a can. Take a sip, and it is pure sugar water with a chemical tang that clings to your tongue. For kids, it feels like a treat. For adults, it feels like regret in liquid form. The problem with grape soda, especially the cheaper, generic versions, is that it has nothing to do with grapes. There's no juice, no antioxidants, nothing even remotely natural. What you are really drinking is sugar, corn syrup, artificial flavor, and purple dye that could probably stain your shirt forever. That grape flavor? It is based on a lab-created profile that never actually came from real fruit. Health-wise, it is one of the worst offenders. A single can can load you with more sugar than your body knows what to do with in one sitting. The artificial colors and flavors add nothing of value and have even been questioned by health experts for potential long-term effects. If Mountain Dew feels like a dare, grape soda feels like a trick, making you believe it is fruity and fun, when it is really just sugar disguised as nostalgia. From a value perspective, grape soda is often cheaper than big-name colas, which is part of the trap. You see a 12-pack on sale, the price looks good, and you toss it in the cart. But cheap is not the same as value, and when you are left with a drink that nobody in the family actually wants to finish, it is wasted money. Even kids eventually realize it is just too much. Could it be saved? Maybe if companies actually used real grape juice or toned down the sugar so it was crisp and refreshing instead of syrupy and heavy. But as it stands, grape soda is a cartoon version of fruit. Bright, exaggerated, and not something you actually want to consume in real life. Your turn. When was the last time you drank a grape soda, and did it taste like fruit or just purple sugar water? Shifting gears to the good side, let us celebrate the bubbly classic that proves you do not need sugar to sparkle, La Croix sparkling water. La Croix is the poster child for modern soda alternatives. The cans are sleek, colorful, and immediately recognizable, but the magic is inside. Crack one open, and you get the same satisfying fizz of soda, but without the sugar rush, without the chemicals, and without the heavy syrup that drags you down. The flavors are subtle: lemon, lime, passion fruit, coconut, and that subtlety is the whole point. You are drinking something that refreshes, not overwhelms. Think about the experience. You pop the tab, take a sip, and the carbonation dances on your tongue. The flavor is light, almost like someone whispered lemon into your glass of water. Critics joke that La Croix tastes too subtle, but fans argue that is what makes it so drinkable. It hydrates while still feeling fun, and unlike traditional sodas, you can drink more than one without feeling sick or jittery. From a health perspective, La Croix is a winner. No sugar, no calories, no artificial sweeteners, just carbonated water and natural flavor essences. For people trying to cut down on soda, it is a bridge. You still get the fizz you crave, but without the sugar crash. It is not perfect hydration since it is not plain water, but it is a massive step up from regular soda. Price-wise, La Croix does cost more than generic soda, but fans see it as an investment in feeling better. Instead of a bargain that punishes you later, it is a slightly pricier choice that pays off in energy, hydration, and peace of mind. That is part of why La Croix exploded in popularity. It is not just a drink. It is a lifestyle signal that says, I care about my health, but I still like bubbles. Is it for everyone? Some people will always want the syrupy sweetness of soda, and La Croix will feel bland by comparison. But for anyone trying to cut back on sugar, it is proof that refreshment does not have to be unhealthy. Question for you. Are you Team La Croix all the way, or do you think sparkling water is just soda without the fun? Coming in with a gut-friendly twist is the soda that actually sneaks in something good for you. Olipop Prebiotic Soda. If La Croix is about stripping soda down to basics, Olipop is about reimagining it altogether. Crack open a can, and instead of the usual sugar and syrup bomb, you get a fizzy drink made with plant fibers, botanicals, and prebiotics designed to support gut health. It sounds too good to be true, a soda that tastes like soda but claims to be healthy. And yet when you sip it, you realize they might be onto something. The flavors are nostalgic: root beer, vintage cola, cherry vanilla, but lighter, more refreshing, and not as heavy on the sweetness. Instead of corn syrup, Olipop uses stevia, natural fruit juices, and plant-based ingredients to create something that feels indulgent but still responsible. The carbonation hits, the flavors feel familiar, and yet when you finish the can, you do not feel weighed down. That is the difference. From a health perspective, it is one of the most interesting entries in the soda aisle. Each can has fiber, probiotics, and far less sugar than traditional sodas. For people trying to improve digestion or cut down on processed sugar, Olipop offers a way to satisfy cravings without derailing health goals. It is not a miracle cure, but it is a refreshing alternative. The catch? Price. Olipop costs significantly more than regular soda, often $2 to $3 per can, compared to less than $1 for generic brands. But fans argue that the extra cost is worth it, because it is not just a drink, it is functional. It feels like part treat, part supplement, and that combination has made it a cult favorite. Could it replace soda entirely? For some people, yes. For others, it is an occasional indulgence, not a daily staple. But either way, it proves that soda does not have to be all or nothing. It can be fizzy, fun, and a little bit good for you too. Be honest. Would you pay extra for a soda that is actually good for your gut? Or would you stick with the cheaper classics? And finally, we wrap on the sweet surprise that ditches the junk, but keeps the fizz alive. Zevia. At first glance, Zevia looks like just another colorful can of soda, but it hides one big difference. It is sweetened entirely with stevia instead of sugar or artificial chemicals. That means 0 calories, 0 sugar, and none of the aspartame or saccharin aftertaste that diet soda skeptics complain about. You crack it open, and what you get is a familiar soda experience without the baggage. The flavors range from classics like cola, root beer, and ginger ale to more playful ones like cream soda and grape. And while the taste is not identical to sugary soda, it comes impressively close. The stevia sweetness is lighter, sharper, and sometimes leaves a faint aftertaste, but for many drinkers, it is a small price to pay for avoiding the sugar overload. It feels like soda, it fizzes like soda, and it satisfies the craving without the crash. Health-wise, Zevia shines compared to traditional sodas. It is diabetic-friendly, keto-friendly, and suitable for people who want to avoid both sugar and artificial sweeteners. It does not offer the added benefits of something like Olipop, but its strength is in its simplicity. It gives you the soda experience without the downsides. On the value front, Zevia is more expensive than mainstream sodas, but not outrageous compared to other health-focused drinks. Think of it as the middle ground between La Croix's plain sparkling water and Olipop's fiber-packed formulas. It is a compromise, but a good one, especially for people who want the familiar comfort of soda without the health risks attached. Could it replace the classics entirely? For some, yes. For others, it will always feel a little off compared to the sugar-heavy originals. But the key is that it delivers on its promise, a better-for-you soda that still feels like soda. Your call. Do you think Zevia could ever fully replace traditional sodas in your life? Or does the taste of real sugar keep pulling you back? And that is the full pour. Now tell us in the comments which soda you would ban forever and which one you secretly love. Tap that like button if you had fun fizzing through this list, and subscribe to the hidden menu so you never miss our next sip-worthy deep dive. And remember, the truth is not always on the menu.